moving on to our next question. I'd like you to emphasize on the importance of geosciences on Earth today. I mean, the question is rather stereotypical or obvious, but the answer to it might not be so obvious. So could you care to elaborate on it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what strikes me is if you look at newspapers today, a couple of headlines always strike me. One is groundwater. Right? I mean, the country is going through a crisis. Anywhere you look, and I think Bhargavi, you work with Aquadam, right? You're an intern.
Yeah, I did do an intern.
So you're well familiar with the issues that are not just Maharashtra, but all over the country. So
yes.
That's one thing that always strikes me. And the second is unregulated sand mining in our rivers. And both of them, I know there are political issues here. I mean, I'm not naive to think that science will solve everything immediately. These are political hot potatoes. But informed decision making means that we need to collect data, both hard quantitative data on groundwater, and there is a role for sedimentologists and fluvial geomorphologists. Now, you think of these fields as very, some professor coming and giving you lectures on sieving sediment and sand analysis, but they have real applications. How quickly is sand traveling from the source to particular sinks? By sinks, I mean, say, alluvial plains. How long does it stay there? How long will the next flood, how much of the sand in the next flood will be removed to a sink which is further downstream? These sort of academic questions will have enormous implications on how we manage these sediment budgets. We need to understand the sediment budgets. And how will the river channel itself change with all this? So, I mean, importance of geology in earth sciences, as you said, the applications are vast, as we all know. But there are certain fields like groundwater, sand mining, in general, coastal erosion, which will gain great importance in the next couple of decades. They already are, but they will more and more and more.
And this information, would be beneficial for policy making, which is what will drive it.
Policy must be based on data. You can't just wave your arms and say, okay, groundwater is falling here, so we need to do something. But why is it falling? At what rates? At what rate is the recharge?
Right.
And, similar questions, and they have to be. We have to set in programs which might take us 10-15 years to collect that data, but it's a slow process, and it requires patience. It requires a vision. You can't think of election cycles, 5-year and 3-year election cycles. Unfortunately, I'm not blaming India itself. In most countries, it works that way, right? I mean, politicians think in terms of, shorter cycles, and scientists need to think in terms of decades. So we need to come to some kind of reconciliation in terms of this, and how to ground our policy in very firm science-based decision making. And these issues, geologists are going to be very, very central in playing a big role. And even take the transition to green energy, right? Green energy, people think that that's going to be the cure.
Geothermal energy.
It is going to be environmentally destructive in its own way, because we're going to need copper on a scale that is enormous. We're going to need rare earth elements that are on a scale that is enormous. And you read this, really scary stories from places like Congo, where those miners are going into these hand-dug shafts and mining for cobalt and other elements, and every other day something collapses and people die. And these are environmentally destructive methods. Again, geology is going to be key in figuring this out. Where to mine, how much to mine, safety. People safety, and science has to interface with the communities. I always feel. I think. You work with Aquadam, and one important aspect of their work is community participation and transparency. And that applies everywhere. It's not just groundwater. It applies to mining. It applies to just about any activity. You're going to move earth and you're going to change landscapes. You need to involve the people there.
So it does affect the people.
Geologists, like any other official or people interacting with the communities, need to be sensitive to that. And they need to form a more human interface with communities, to disseminate knowledge, to make them understand, and to translate what people are saying back to government, so we can evolve a more human-centric, more sensitive policy towards managing our resources.